What is up, world? It's your boy Ton, and you are listening to the Wonton Wealth Podcast. Here, I'm going to unravel anything and everything commercial real estate related. And more importantly, we're going to add abundant value. So if you're ready, buckle up your eardrums. Welcome back, friends. I hope last week's episode was packed with a bunch of great shit from the one and only Joe Fairless. This week, I have the second part of that conversation for you guys, which I hope you can gain at least one or two nuggets from the legend himself. So we mentioned a couple books here, and for those who don't know, obviously Joe is an author of 3 books now, with one coming out soon. Did I get that right, Joe?
Yeah.
3 published, right?
Yep.
And obviously Joe has the Bible on multifamily investing as well as syndications. So you can search for that on Amazon, obviously. But I wanted to talk about the process of writing the book. Obviously, it's one of those that is a marketing piece, correct? But throughout my process of it, I felt, I was doing 40, 50 hours a week for just months straight, maybe even a year straight, and just cranking out words, just trying to edit these things, and it was very monotonous to me. So it was like rubbing a cheese grater against your forehead for 40, 50 hours a week. So, and for those that are thinking about writing a book, right, it's literally not just throwing words on a Word document or a piece of paper. There's a whole different dynamic of it. It's how it looks. In essence, you have to figure out, kind of what Joe said previously, you have to think about it from another person's perspective, how the reader's going to take this in, and how you can make their learning experience better, right? Or more optimal. So I wanted to ask you, Joe, with the process of the 3 books that you've written and also the one that's in the pipeline, what are some of the challenges that you faced while you were doing all of that? Was there at any point where you're like, dude, I'm done with this shit, just get it out of my face?
Well, so I'm very proud of the syndication book, best ever apartment syndication book. That was a labor of love. That was the 3rd book. The first 2 books, Best Ever Real Estate Investing Advice Volume 1, and then same title Volume 2. Not proud of. Those are so my vision was to have so far on I have a daily podcast. It's been daily for over 3,000 days now. Other people do interviews. I do a tiny bit now, but for the first 1,000, 2,000 days, I did all of them. My vision was to have a book for every 100 episodes that highlighted the top advice from each tranche of 100. So I started with the episodes 1 through 99, which I'll have to look to see if I interviewed my grandma on her 99th, when she was 99 for my 99th episode. I'll have to look to see if she made it in that first book. She ended up living to 107.
That's incredible.
Yeah, in Flint, Michigan, where they got the tainted water, or used to have the tainted water. She lived at 107 in Flint, Michigan. But I interviewed her when she was 99. But if I include her in the book, then I love that book. But it wasn't as it wasn't hard to put together, because it's just summarizing interviews. Same with the second book. But the second book's a little sloppier than the first book. That 3rd book, Best Ever Syndication, I poured my heart and soul into that, along with Theo Hicks, who co-authored it with me. And that went through many iterations, and it was based off of my client program that I have, where I had taught a lot of people the business, and then I realized, hey, there's some things here that I can just put in a book that will be helpful just at scale. And then I combine that with all the interviews that I'd done and the lessons learned among those interviews. And then Theo's expertise to bring it all together, and then my expertise to help make it sound the way that it should. And then, this latest one, it's called Best Ever Bet. It's a short story. It's a fable. About a couple guys, college buddies, who make a bet on which investment's going to do better and then a bunch of funny stuff happens to them, and it's just entertaining. But the first iteration was not. The first iteration was an encyclopedia, and because the audience is limited partners, right, passive investors, accredited investors, and it was an encyclopedia on passively investing, and it was so boring, like so freaking boring, and it was comprehensive and covered everything, but nobody would have read it. So that hurt my heart to basically scrap the whole thing, incorporate some of incorporate the main concepts, but then completely redirect it. So then I hired a writer to make it a fable, because I get tripped up on if someone's saying something as a quote, is the parenthesis before or after, or is the quotation marks. I know they're after the quote, but then if it's the end of a sentence, is the period before or after the quotation. I would just get tripped up on too many things. And I've never written like a dialogue type of book. That's just a different beast, and I didn't want to try that. So it is that actually the Best Ever Bet book, which probably coming out in the next 6 months. That's been a work in progress for about 4 years. And so that puppy has been cooking for a while, and I think it's finally baked. Hopefully it's not overcooked, but it's finally baked, and we're just trying to figure out how to launch it.
Gotcha. Well, the next question I had for you was essentially about, I'll preface this by saying that what I'm most impressed with you is your ability to be in the moment. Mm-hmm. So when we're hanging out, there's no cell phones, the shit's somewhere else, mm-hmm. nowhere to be found, not reachable.
Yep.
And your, I guess, discipline, right? Mm. So I guess, what does your day look like? Once again, I'll preface this again, that successful people, they tend to follow habits or routines that kind of just go on autopilot. And they do that day in and day out. Obviously, you're disciplined with these things, but on a daily basis, what does your day look like? Do you have some type of routine or habits that you kind of follow every day? Or is it just kind of go with the flow?
My alarm over the last 6 months or so has been set for like 7:15ish. So that's when I start I start moving around in bed, and so then I have a liter of water with a scoop of wheatgrass. I've done that for like 15 years. Like a liter of water. That's a lot of water. And a scoop
Holy
of
shit.
Grass. Yeah. And then I work out in the morning. Now I finally cracked the code on my fitness. I was at 187 today, and a year and a half ago I was at 206.
Damn.
Year and a half ago I was at 206. Last year, my goal was to be under 195 by the 15th of every month. I hit it all 12 months. This year, my goal is to be under 190 or under, 10 out of 12 months. I missed February. Yeah, I missed February, but I hit January and March, and I'm good now. I just need to figure out how I was going to get that baseline down. And how I did it was I mixed in weights with my cardio.
Love it.
Yeah. And all I do is I go into ChatGPT and I say, here's the equipment that I've got access to. I do a 10-minute workout. Create a 10-minute workout, and ultimately ends up being 20. But create a 10-minute workout, and so I do 2 rounds of 5 different exercises, and I work out a different muscle group each day. And before I do that, I would walk 2 miles on the treadmill at a 4.0 speed, so 15-minute mile pace. And then I make sure I get 5 miles total in for the day. Doesn't have to be on the treadmill. And that's been awesome to see the progress, and it's sustainable too. So I also have one dessert day a week. That's it. I can eat dessert on one day, unless I'm on vacation. Then I'll have some leeway there. But one dessert day a week. And you mentioned the phone stuff. The phone stays in my office at night. It's not in the bedroom. When I'm hanging out with friends, as you mentioned, if when we're hanging out, unless I'm changing the music, and I hate to do that because then I get on my phone. Unless I'm changing music, I'm not on my phone. I'm focused on whatever bullshit you're saying, or trying to call you out on whatever you're saying. But I'm focused on the conversation. I'm focused on the individuals, and I love that. And it honestly, it makes me sad when I see people just together but on their phones. That is the predominant emotion that comes to the surface with me for whatever reason. I don't know. There's something psychologically there, but it just makes me sad. And I respect the time that we have together too much to be a fucking zombie.
It's actually pretty annoying too. Like if you're out like just one on one or maybe a group of people and you're talking about a story or whatever and everybody's on their fucking phone, it's like do you even want to listen to what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
am I wasting your time now? Like,
I remember in high school, I think it was high school. No, maybe it was college, but I remember riding with my dad and he would be talking and then I had the phone and I'd be doing something. He said, "Oh, I'll wait." And it always annoyed me as a kid, as a college student. It always annoyed me. Well, why is he saying, "Oh, wait"? No, I can do both. I'm good. Now I see it. Now I see the perspective. So I am absolutely someone who's come from the other side. Like I get that, but now I don't. And you won't find me in the presence of others during a conversation being on my phone. It won't be a thing.
Love that. Love that. I wanted to take it to the Best Ever conference now because that was actually something that just happened recently. Mm-hmm. What were we in March? So last month. Best Ever has gone for 9 years now. Is that right?
Yes.
9, 10, whatever it is.
9.
But 9.
Next year will be 10.
Right. All right. So you have consecutively done 9 years of keynotes. So the public speaking factor. Mm-hmm. Public speaking in and of itself can be terrifying. You're going up there, you're nervous, mm-hmm. got the jitters, all that shit. What did you do in order to prepare to be so good at public speaking and being so comfortable in front of thousands of people at this conference?
I would say 3 things. One is just being prepared, knowing my material in and out. 2 is when I was in New York, I wanted to be better at public speaking, so I took a improv class. I got in there, and then they said, "Why are you here?" I told them why, and they said, "Well, if you ever, this is not as challenging because if we give you the stapler on stage, the audience will know that this is the first time you're seeing the stapler, so they'll cut you some slack, right? What do you say? Someone hand me a stapler, right?" However, stand-up comedy, the audience comes in expecting that you're prepared, expecting to laugh every 7 seconds. So if you want to get better at public speaking, go do stand-up comedy. I said, okay, fine. So then I took a class and a course on stand-up comedy. And this is while I had my full-time job in advertising. So I took a course on that. And then it culminated with me performing at Gotham Comedy Club in New York City. And technically, Jim Gaffigan, have you ever heard of him, Jim Gaffigan? Yeah. He opened up for me, technically. He went on stage before I went on stage, technically speaking.
Hell yeah.
That night, yeah. So I can say Jim Gaffigan opened up for me at Gotham Comedy Club. And so that was the second thing I did. By the way, I had a very friendly audience, so everyone laughed because you had to bring your friends to, I think, go on stage. But then I tried it again because I thought, oh man, I am a funny dude. Not only did nobody laugh, but literally that club that I did my performance at shut down like a week later.
Oh no.
So I made it go out of business. It literally is not existent anymore. So that was the second thing. And then the third thing I did is I didn't do it this year, but I've done it so many years in the past. It's just ingrained as Tony Robbins' top presentation tips video. It's about an hour-long video. He's in a Hawaiian like sleeveless shirt, and he's 25 years old, and it's old school, recorded on a VCR, but they put it on YouTube. And he has some really good tips in there about how he prowls around, the audience. He wants the audience to be on their seat, on the edge a little bit in case he picks on them. Not in a bad way, but in case he selects them. And you'll
Sure.
notice, and when I talk, I'm prowling. If you don't raise your hand and no one else does, I might call on you, which I did in this keynote. No one wanted to. I asked who has some muscles around here, and no one raised their hand. And so I picked on a guy who had some muscles, and fortunately he didn't beat me up after I picked on him. And then I made a joke about him in all good nature, but he was a good sport about it. So that video has some really good tips. And it's all another one that really stands out is, what do you really love and respect about your audience? Because if you really respect them, less about the love, what do you really respect about your audience? Because if you can truly channel that respect for them, then you know that you have a message that you need to deliver to them because you respect them so much and you want to help them out. So it's less about what do I say, or it's less about how I say it. It's more about just what's the main message I want to communicate to them. And there's many different ways to go about getting to that end point. But if you know the destination, then you can find different ways during the presentation to get to that destination.
Gotcha. I have one or two questions left, depending on how much time you got.
Sure.
They're stumpers. Not really, but back in Colorado, you hit me with a question, and I was like, damn, I never really thought about that. Like, I think the question was, if you had to travel back in time to one moment in history and witness the entire thing, what would it be? Mm-hmm. And I'm not a history guy, so I probably gave you some half-ass answer. But my question to you would be, what is the one thing that you wish you could change about yourself?
That's a tricky one, because if I wish I could change it, then I would work on changing it already. And I'm always looking to improve. Like my goal this year is to read 19 books, and I've already read 5 so far.
Damn.
Rounding the corner to 6. I'd say one thing that I don't know if I can change it, so that's why I would include this as the response to this question. Otherwise, I'd be working on changing it. I do a really good job of, whenever I am learning something, if I'm immersed in something, then it's tough to beat me. Because if I'm immersed in it, then I'm all in, and it's my world. But then if I leave that world and I go work on something else, then I don't retain as much of that as much of it as perhaps other people might. Like I used to be big in the Scrabble. I used to go to Washington Square Park, Northwest Corner, and watch the guys who play Scrabble. I never played, but I used to watch them. I read the book Word Wars. I watched, which is a good book, by the way, Word Wars, and I watched a documentary. That's a pretty interesting. That's a fun one. Bunch of interesting dudes who do Scrabble professionally. But now I would be terrible at Scrabble. However, at that time, I had all the 2-letter and maybe 3-letter acceptable words memorized, or acceptable Q words memorized. I knew how to play the Q. So I would like to retain that more as I move on to something else. That would be cool to change.
Retain. I think a lot of people share that same issue because, well, me in particular, I'm the same way. I get good at something for maybe a month or so, and then I leave it, just complete shit again. Golf in particular. My last question for you would be, if you had to start over at zero, nothing, what would you need to do in order to get back to where you are today?
Depends on the circumstances. You gotta give me a little bit more of a circumstance, because
you have all the knowledge.
Okay.
You have, let's say, no assets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say you don't have the relationship you've built over the past 10 years.
Okay. But I've got a home. I've got a computer and internet. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I go back to the well. I'd start interviewing people. I'd start building those relationships one by one. I do 2 interviews a day. If at this point because I'm 42 now. So, but when I started the podcast, I was not 42. I don't know, however age I was. So I've need to hurry up and do it a little bit faster than I did before. So I would do 2 interviews a day, and I'd figure out maybe a slightly different format, maybe a little shorter format. And then here's what I would do differently on that though. I'd have a community which we have now, Best Ever CRE community. You can download it on well, just wherever you download apps. What I would do now is I'd make sure the guests that I'm bringing on are being interviewed through that community, and people can watch it through the community. So I would build a community along the way, whereas my first go around with the 3,000 plus interviews, it was just kind of one off, like, hey, interview this guest, and there was no one place for them all to mingle and get to know each other along with the listeners. Now we have that. Would have been nice if we created it day one, if I created it day one.
What would you say, like, with the biggest benefit is obviously everybody kind of commingling within an ecosystem, right? But are there any ancillary benefits to that?
It's a curated community, so not everyone can join. You have to have done at least 2 deals as a general partner in commercial real estate, or you have to at least invested in 1 deal as a limited partner.
Gotcha.
Therefore, it elevates the conversation. It's a more refined conversation. We're not talking about how do I make my first $10,000 in commercial real estate or how do I wholesale homes. We're only talking about commercial real estate with experienced individuals. And as the community grows, we're going to create a regional meetups and then build that out so that the best ever community members can meet throughout the year, not just once a year in Salt Lake City when we do the big event.
Gotcha. I've seen it blossom currently, and I think there's big things to come from it. It's pretty cool, and I think Ann has brought in a lot of effort and energy to it. So I'm excited to see where it ends up or as it continues to grow.
Yeah, and previously it was a paid community, and it just didn't make sense to do it. So we're actually opening it up. That hasn't been announced yet, but announcing it now. We're opening it up so it's a free community, but you still have to qualify. You still have to have that experience. If you don't, then go get it and then join. But it will now be a free community for all experienced commercial real estate investors to participate in.
Awesome. Well, Joe, I know I took up a lot of your time already over the 40 minutes you mentioned.
I really enjoy talking to you, your friendship. We've known each other for a while. I've gone on a couple vacations together. And what you do, your drive, your tenacity is impressive, and your heart, too.
Appreciate you, brother.
So it's impressive. I always enjoy being around you and then hearing what you got going on.
Love it, brother. I appreciate that. But, yeah, hoping to catch you soon in person, and then eventually for another episode of Wonton Wealth.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. See you, brother.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap. If you've made it this far, that means you've listened to the entire episode, so thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening from. And if you've learned something or found it useful, share it with one of your homies. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm pretty active on IG. My handle is pro_TANH. Reach out, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you want to hear about in the future. I'm here to tailor this to you. Until next time.